The following is paid programming.
It's time to talk taxes.
New friends, new opportunities, new partners. EG Tax.
It's Ask the Tax Lady with Esther Gulius and EG Tax on News Radio 930 WBEN. To reach Esther now, call 803-0930. Toll free at 1-800-616-9236. And cell calls are free at star 930. And now, live from the WBEN studios, it's Esther Gulius.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Tax Lady. As you can tell, it's not Esther. It's Chris Fabian again. Esther has this Saturday off, even though she's probably still listening out there, streaming the show. Hi, Esther. Or wait, hello, Esther. But I'm here with my beautiful wife, Tiffany Fabian.
Hey, happy Saturday.
Happy gorgeous Saturday.
Oh my! Well, it was like I walked outside this morning, and the pollen
Yeah, it was like, is
everywhere.
it snowing?
It was like, I know the lawn 2 doors over looked like it had snow all over the yard because the pollen was just grabbing at the grass, you know?
Yep. Oh, it was crazy.
Yes, yeah. But it's gorgeous outside. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you got to visit with family today?
Yep. My brother and sister are in from out of town, so we went to Mom's house, and everybody was there, so it made Mom very happy.
Nothing's better. And today we have our summer series continues, and I think that's why Esther took off. She thinks things get too crowded when there's 4 people, so she just likes it to keep it to 3. So today we have Jesse from Cross State Funding in. So get your questions together. Call us at 716-803-0930. Again, 716-803-0930. You can also text star 930 or 716-803-0930. I heard your head pop up, Chris. Did I do something wrong?
Yeah,
It's not star 930.
right. You can call star 930, but that's all right.
Yes, you could call star 9. I saw, see. Look at I can even like behind the screen. I can check that head popping up. So get your questions together. Also tax questions. I know. We're still dealing with lots of letters. There was somebody who came into the office this week, I think a couple days ago, and they had a trust return, and I had done the return, and I put for the amount that they had due to come right out of their checking account. They had 2 trust returns, and I think, and I know the money came out, but the IRS still billed them, right?
Yep. So we're dealing with that, but we're seeing a lot, especially with New York State, where they're billing people where it's been paid, and I know they said it takes a month for us to process a check, but it takes them 1 day to cash the check.
Yeah.
And a month to put it in your account. That's weird.
Yeah. And then when you called the IRS, you held for over an hour, and
Almost 2 hours.
Did
and
they
never,
hang up on you
They
finally?
never picked up.
Yeah. Well, I called the IRS with somebody, Pearl Lean, twice over the last 3 weeks, and we held for an hour, very long hour. I think it was more than an hour, and both times we got disconnected. And so it gets really disheartening. I think sometimes that's when you pull out the old Microsoft and you just type up a letter, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And the big, beautiful bill is still working itself through the Senate, right?
Oh, yes. It may become the big sloppy bill when everybody's done.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk wasn't happy with some of the energy credits and the cost of the bill. But I think he was also disheartened about losing the energy credits because the electric vehicle credit, it's a good credit, right?
Yeah, $7,500. I can tell you, I didn't do any this year.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't
So
do any.
I could see people not as interested in it as they used to be.
Right.
But, it's a nice thing for those who want an electric car.
Yeah.
That they qualify, if they qualified for it, so why not?
Yeah, and then new windows, front door, garage door, if it's connected to your house. Furnace, rolls of insulation, solar panels. And so those are things that people can still take advantage of on the 2025 return, right?
As of now, yes.
So, Jesse, thank you for coming. What is your phone number at Cross State Funding?
No, thank you, guys. Phone number is 716-984-6968.
Great, great, great. And I know Chris and I have used you numerous times, and
Oh, yeah.
we refer you guys whenever we can to friends, family, clients, and you guys always do an amazing job. I tell people that you're like the guru. I'll tell clients who have been struggling, I'm like, give Jesse a call, and he'll pull your credit and tell you, you've got too many signers on this credit card, get rid of one of the signers, drop this credit card to this bet value, and you really help them to bolster their credit, which is sometimes what they need to get them pushed over the hill, right?
Oh, absolutely. Kind of the mad scientist of mortgages.
Yes,
if you will.
yes.
We pride ourselves in it. We refuse to turn our backs on clients. So even the ones that are lower credit scores have issues that other banks would turn right away and just say, sorry, we can't help you. We'll happily take them on and show them what they need to do in order to get a house.
That's so cool, because it's like one of the most important things in your life is homeownership.
Huge,
Yeah.
Everyone wants homeownership.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I know our daughter in Chicago. Go on, Chris.
Yeah, with the prices, I know it's harder for people to afford a mortgage right now. I know we were
Absolutely.
talking before the show. What my daughter and my niece who just bought a house is their mortgage payment's almost the same as ours, and it's crazy what
Right.
the interest rate does. And I mean, is the credit score remaining the same where that they look at? Have they made that harder? Do you have to?
Yeah, good question, because that was a big thing a few years ago with the credit scores impacting the rates more than ever. Conventional loans, they do. Conventional loans, pretty much every 10 to 20 points is going to determine your interest rate difference. Government loans, FHA, VA, interest rate isn't nearly as hard pressed on credit score as it is conventional. But having those good scores ultimately helps you a ton, no matter what.
Yeah, and what about PMI?
Yeah.
Those rules have changed recently, right? Where
They have PMI as of more recent couple years as well. It has been discounted quite a bit. FHA almost cut theirs in half for the first time in I think almost 20 years, which is pretty unheard of.
did they do that for existing mortgages, or are those people still paying an arm and a leg?
They are. Yep, they are. So even those people, they come to us, and that could be a nice benefit on refinancing.
I was just going to say that
Yeah.
might be worth it. You
Right.
may pay a better interest rate,
Right.
a higher interest rate,
Right.
but if your PMI drops in half,
Right.
you're
Right. Take out a little bit of cash to pay off some credit cards as well, and anything to help out their debt ratio.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was talking to, I can't remember if it was a client, and they said in a different state. Oh, I know. I was talking to Esther, and she has a friend, and she lives in Ohio, and her house is on the market right now, and in Ohio, so it's like $700,000 or $800,000, and she's having a more difficult time than she thought selling the house, and so here in Western New York, there's not enough inventory, and so houses here aren't staying on the market
Right.
long, but in different ADIs or different markets, it's a different story. And I think part of the equation is people's mortgage rates formally are so low that
Right.
they can't let go of the house.
Right. They don't want to let go of it. They'll
Yeah.
look into maybe doing an addition or something else to just adapt their family to their current house and residence.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And somebody corrected me. It's not pollen. It's what my back is to the
it's
screen.
cottonwood.
It's cottonwood. So I stand corrected. I knew after I said it wasn't correct.
Yeah.
And
Whatever it is, it makes me sneeze and
Yeah.
can't breathe
Yeah.
outside. So
Yeah, allergies are allergies. I know
Exactly.
I know people will correct that too. No, there's different types of allergies, but
And then Jesse, so my daughter in Chicago, they're really hesitant to move out of their house and they need a bigger house because of the mortgage rates. And we said to them that the rates will drop, and so
They will,
then
yeah.
they can refinance, and
Right.
so you just sort of have to think of the long game, right?
Right. You just need to put yourself in a position where you're marrying your house and dating the rate. That's the name of the game, unfortunately.
Right.
Even if you don't end up refinancing to a significantly lower rate after you've been in the house, I mean, people will look into maybe just dropping it a little bit and, like I said, taking cash out to pay off some debt, fix things up around the house, anything like that.
Yeah. What was the advice you were giving her, Chris? Becca?
buy a house, buy a bigger house.
Yeah.
Just bite the bullet.
Right. You just got to do it. And anybody that ends up buying and purchasing at that time, even when rates are high, I mean, we've helped so many people drop their rates from those mid sevens, low sevens into high fives, low sixes, and take care of debt, other things. So
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Okay, well, this is Chris Fabian with Tiffany Fabian from EG Tax. We got Jesse from Cross State Funding here. We're going to take a short break. Call in with your questions, and we'll get you on the other side. That's right. At EG Tax, we do treat you guys as family. We love everybody. Even if you're not our clients, we want to help you, and that's why we do this. We want to give you the best advice, the most up-to-date advice out there. So give us a call here in studio, 716-803-0930, 716-803-0930, star 930 on your cell phone. You can text your questions in as well at 716-803-0930. And part of our family caring that we do for people is our summer series, and like we heard, we have Jesse from Cross State talking about mortgages, which I know we're all thinking, I know most people too are like, well, don't I have to just offer all cash for a house now?
Yeah, it helps, certainly.
On the break, I was asking you, Jesse, about you had put together some slides. What is the DSCR program? And so I asked you what that acronym stands for, and debt service.
Debt service coverage ratio. So it's becoming one of our most popular programs. You don't need a job income to qualify. It's mainly for investors. So if you have someone looking to go buy an investment property and they don't have your traditional income source or any income at all, as long as the rent from that property would exceed the mortgage payment, it qualifies.
And go on.
And the only downfall really is you do have to put at least 20% down because there's no mortgage insurance like we were talking about before the break.
Gotcha.
So they don't have mortgage insurance on those properties. It requires that 20%.
But geez, maybe if you have a windfall of money or you inherit some money or
100%.
Yeah.
And if you want to qualify and you have like a low-paying W-2 job, but you want to try and get some extra income in and maybe have some cash sitting aside, it's huge.
Or maybe you're self-employed.
Exactly. Self-employed, writing everything off. Yep. Absolutely.
Can you do it in different states too?
Yes, different states. We can do it in every state on the nation. So,
wow.
Popular ones: Florida, Carolinas, Georgia. We've been helping clients in. So anyone that can either make some money long-term renting, or another popular thing is short-term with Airbnbs.
Right. Yeah, I was telling you before the show that we went to Chicago last weekend and we looked for an Airbnb, and there was none. There was one that we were looking at, but then we drug our feet and it was gone. Right.
Yep. I'm sure. And it's becoming the new wave of things, has been for the last few years.
Because when you're traveling, it would be nicer to be together.
Right.
And,
right.
go and
having a whole house with the family instead of a couple hotel rooms. Absolutely.
Yep. So much nicer. So that's a really cool program. Is it a federally driven program?
It's
Must
not.
Be.
No, it's not. It's independent. It's definitely becoming the new wave of things with investors. It's some investors even that have traditional income are going the DSCR route just because they simply don't want to provide all their tax returns, pay stubs, and all that stuff.
Right.
And you're not like traditional mortgages. Investors are limited.
Right. You can only have 10. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, so
DSCR has no limit. So as I was telling you guys during the break, I had a client that we whipped out 13 of them in just 1 month for him. So
wow.
He had a bunch of free and clear properties located in Buffalo and just refinanced them, took some cash out, and went and bought another dozen properties cash. It was a no-brainer for him to expand.
That is so cool. I know we have some clients, and they have lots of rental property by UB, and that's their entire gig. That's what they do for a living, and no punching in, punching out.
Right.
And
which people love. Exactly. And you can still make really great money doing it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, is it different for an individual versus an LLC?
Good question, Chris. It used to be, but as of about a year ago, you can do it back and forth. So LLCs are fine to buy in as well as personal names. Yep.
So the interest rate's not that.
Nope, interest rate's the same. Yep, they actually encourage people, unlike regular mortgages. They want it to be investment. The last thing on these DSCR that they want is for people to actually occupy them themselves.
So could you use it for personal at all?
Not at all, unfortunately. Yep, strictly
Gotcha.
investment.
Gotcha. And that's one of the requirements, right? I'm sure.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
like at least around here, if you wanted to invest in property around Ellicottville.
Right, absolutely. It's probably the most common program we use for the Ellicottville and Great Valley area. Absolutely.
And that area is just growing exponentially.
Oh, it's booming. Yeah, they're expanding.
Yeah. What about around the Finger Lakes?
Finger Lakes is big too. Yeah, Canandaigua is probably our most popular area for out there. But you get the best of both worlds. Let's say you have one in Ellicottville, you got your winter income, and then you have one in Canandaigua, you got your summer income. Yeah.
So do you think interest rates are going to come down in the near future?
I do. We're hoping for, everyone was thinking heading into the fourth quarter of this year, we'd see a little bit of a drop, but after the recent updates from the feds and everything, it doesn't look like that's really going to trend that way.
I think President Trump got mad at the head of the Reserve, right?
Right,
There was
exactly.
a little bit of fighting there.
It wasn't looking good for a little bit.
No, yeah. So with that being said, is refinancing still a common thing for homeowners out there today?
It is. We haven't seen any difference in our refinance to purchase ratio in the company. We're still doing about half and half, really. The big thing people are refinancing with, even if you have a lower rate right now, let's say something in the 3s, 4s, but you have a ton of credit card debt or personal loan debt at a higher rate, people are combining everything into one like mid-tier mortgage rate, something at like maybe a 5.9 to 6.9, and they're saving a boatload in interest by doing that.
Which is so smart.
It's huge.
It's just so smart.
People just need to work on it.
Yep. Okay, we're going to go to the phones and talk to CJ. Hey, CJ, how can we help you?
Yes, I haven't been able to see if FICA will be deducted from tips. Aside from federal taxes, a person could work 20, 25 years in the service industry, and their total earnings would not be considered in their Social Security benefit. It sounds good, but it could reduce their retirement benefit. Could you find out?
Yeah, right now, how it is in the Big Beautiful Bill, that people who are on tips are going to have a subtraction, an adjustment to income. So it looks like they're still going to be paying the full Social Security and Medicare on all of their tips and wages, and then they'll get a subtraction from income. So they're only going to be saving on income tax. So, which is a good thing, like you said, because it would impact their retirement. And that's what people don't realize is when they hear, oh, tips are tax-free, that brings, when that's their only source of income is being a server, and you don't claim your tips, you're reducing your future benefits.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also we've learned, teasing apart the bill, that it's for industries that were common in tip-driven income, like restaurant or delivery people or hair salons, because
like our staff couldn't just say, oh, put me on as I get tips. So their wages are less,
Right.
And they get, so you have to have had a pattern in that job of what was going on. Same thing with salary versus hourly. So if you work overtime, the overtime is still subject to tax because you weren't being, you're trying to manipulate tax law and they're trying to cut that out.
Chris, for anybody who caught it late, can you relay her question again?
Sure. So CJ's question, and it was a really good question. How does if the Big Beautiful Bill passes, how does the no tax on tips work? Does it impact their Social Security? And so as of right now, they still pay the tax on Social Security.
Yep, which is really so.
Or tax on the Social Security tax on their tips.
Yep,
Sorry.
and half of that burden falls on the employer, and half of it falls on the employee. And so, and like Chris said, it's a really important thing, so that when someday you go to collect, that's something that you won't, your income will, your Social Security will be bolstered by that, right?
Anything else, CJ?
No, I couldn't find it online. I looked a lot, and I think it's important to pay your FICA for your future retirement benefits.
Amen. That's I have been preaching that for 25 years, and people look at me like I'm crazy, but those people probably 25 years ago probably wish they listened to me.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Enjoy the day.
You too.
Thanks. Okay. And, and that brings the thing up, too, with Jesse as well. I know we're coming up to the news, but maybe we can talk about it after. Besides that program you were just talking about, if they didn't report the tips on wages as wages, that could impact what you qualify for a mortgage.
100%.
Because that's less income.
100%. And just like you were saying, too, you have to have a history of it for both ways, for mortgages, tax purposes. It goes one and the same. And
something like that industry, how far back would a mortgage company look? Would they only look at 1 year, or would they look at a 3-year span to see if that's what you're...
Yeah, really good question. The minimum is 12 months. They want to see 24 months, 2 years, so you can get a really good, accurate picture on how their income looks. But you have some people that, do really good as a waitress, waiter, making tips for a year. We can absolutely look into using it.
Yeah, if they work at one of the many steakhouses around here. I'm not gonna mention names, so I want to get free advertising.
Yep, those are the common ones we see where they do pretty well.
Yeah, we see people who work 3 nights a week and they make $65,000-$70,000 a year.
Right, and they're qualifying for a $250,000 house. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Chris Fabian, Tiffany Fabian from EG Tax. This week we're joined by Jesse Myers from Cross State Funding. We got to take a break for the news, but get your questions in. We want to help you, and we'll talk to you on the other side of the news. And we're back. Thank you for listening this gorgeous Saturday in Buffalo, New York. Chris Fabian, Tiffany Fabian from EG Tax here for another half hour to help you with your tax questions, or if you have mortgage questions, is it a good time to refinance or purchase? How does my kid purchase a house? Well, we got that perfect guest for you this week, Jesse Myers from Cross State Funding. Get your questions in, and Jesse, I'm sure you take these questions during the week too for people. Oh, yeah. And how would they get a hold of you?
Best way is just to give us a buzz, guys. You can call or text in 716-984-6968. And we pride ourselves in just making sure we get back to our clients no matter what within 24 hours, even on the weekends.
And how would you, colleges just did their graduations, and, what would your advice be for parents of these college kids who want to buy a house? How would you say they should go about?
Yeah, two big things. One thing, and I do have it's not making this up. I have a lot of parents ask me on their children that are even 15, 16, 17 years old, like, hey, what could I do to get my kids ready in a few years for when they want to buy their first place? Biggest thing is they have no credit. They don't have anything going on. So even a parent adding their child to one of their credit cards as an authorized user, they don't have to give their kid a copy of the card to go out and buy stuff. That's not necessary. They just simply are reaping the benefits of having their parent's credit card. Just them making normal purchases will give them a really good credit score.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, that's a big thing I tell.
Something you don't think about,
Absolutely. I have kids come to me 19, 20, 21 years old that have good money, good paying job, and they got a nice down payment saved up, but they have no credit score at all. So that's the first thing we have to help them with. Get a little credit card or get on your parents' stuff.
Are there any first-time home buyer programs available?
Yeah, absolutely. We have some of the best. Just because we're licensed with over 18 different lenders now, we have hundreds and hundreds of different programs.
That's so cool.
Yeah, our first-time buyer programs, they essentially get a free gift from the lender, a free cash gift back to them in closing cost, depending on what their income is. That perfect range is like $45,000 to $75,000. So if you fit that book right there, and you're looking to buy just your first starter home, $175,000, $225,000 house, you could get upwards of a $5,000, $6,000 credit back.
Wow,
which is huge.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I know a lot of times people who come in, Chris can testify to this, and they've bought their first house, they think that there's going to be this large tax credit you get for like a first-time home buyers, and unfortunately there's not. But one thing in the big, beautiful bill is the state and local tax limitation that was $10,000. They're looking to expand 30, 40,000, Chris?
Correct.
Yeah, and so that would really help people to
help.
itemize.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because property taxes are not cheap, and so the limitation of those under the new provisions that we have under the tax code are not beneficial for some property owners, and so it'll really be nice because. I mean, I did somebody's tax return the other day. Their property taxes are $37,000 a year, and so
Unbelievable.
yeah, and so that's
They're
right
losing
here.
a huge benefit. Yeah.
They're losing it, and so they're paying all that money, And we talked about this on one of the breaks. If DeSantis could make it so there were no property taxes in Florida, that would be huge in a different aspect because they pay so much in insurance, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of vice versa for here. Our
Yeah.
insurance is cheap, but
Yeah.
taxes are through the roof. And in Florida right now, it's almost impossible to even achieve homeowners insurance.
Wow.
It's very tough.
Speaking of property taxes and first-time home buyers, when people come in to get pre-qualified, does that this is your business, not mine.
Yep.
Do they look when you pre-qualify? Do you say this is what it is, including property taxes around?
We do.
How does that all work?
We do. It's a big thing because a lot of people, just when you're not as further educated and you're first time buying a house, a lot of people don't know how much the property taxes truly are, especially in
What
our
are
area.
property taxes?
Right.
They probably don't know that.
Exactly. It can be sometimes for first time buyers upwards of maybe even 30 to 40% of their payment could be property taxes. So yes, we always compound everything, taxes, insurance, mortgage, so our clients get an accurate picture of what their total payment would look like.
Yeah, because that is huge.
You don't want to scare them, because we've had people that, they look into a house and they're like, oh, I want to make an offer. I love this house. We end up going to price it out for them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't afford that payment. Well,
And it's so funny. People also have the mindset is, nah, I just much rather rent than purchase a house. But you're just throwing away. I hate to use that money, the equity. And then, Esther always says, the equity that you have in a house, it's just priceless. And the nice thing about selling a house, if you've lived in it for the last 2 out of 5 years, if you're a married couple, the capital gain exclusion is $500,000, and that's tax-free money. And so houses just appreciate exponentially, and
especially here.
Yeah, and so the investment is really a good investment. Wouldn't you say, Chris?
Yes.
It's one of the best investments. There's few things, especially in the Buffalo area, that appreciate quicker than housing, than even single-family residential housing.
Yep. And then are you guys still doing good credit rebuilds for clients?
Absolutely. Yeah, our credit rebuilds are coming in more clutch than ever for clients. Just because last few years people really struggled racking up credit card debt, putting stuff into collections. COVID screwed a lot of people over with jobs, et cetera. So we put people in a pre-program pretty much to plan for getting a house in the next month or two, get their credit up, get their income in line if necessary, get a good savings going, anything to help them out to get ready to purchase a house.
Yeah, because it's sort of like a jigsaw puzzle.
It's
just like a rubric, just trying to figure out how we can bolster your credit, and it's just really important.
Yeah.
And then even people who don't have credit, do you guys have? Is it hard when people are self-employed? Do you find it's more difficult to navigate the mortgage path for those type of folks?
Yeah, self-employed is a whole different animal. At Cross State, we actually have a couple of our originators that specialize strictly in self-employment people. It's just weighing in their income, because we can add back in certain write-offs to income, depreciation, depletion, things like that.
Mileage, probably.
Mileage, yep. Depending on what you do as well, if like our investors, if you don't have a true job and you just have a bunch of investment properties, we can add back in your property tax, insurance write-offs, things like that can bolster up your income a bit.
And you guys also do home equity lines of
we do.
credit,
Yep.
right?
We didn't as up until 2023 we started them.
Yep.
A couple of our banks introduced some nice programs, and yeah, that's another great way to help save yourself on debt.
Yeah. So folks out there who are paying 15, 16, 17, 18, 28, what are some credit cards? Chris?
28 to
Even over
33%.
30%.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
so because COVID really was a stranglehold on people, they lost jobs, things were downsized,
Right.
and so just the credit card debt is staggering, and so getting a home equity line of credit is a really good option. Even at the office, I do a lot of offers and compromises, and so if they own a house and they won't qualify for an offer and compromise, I'm like, how about a home equity line of credit? It's a real viable option if you've
is.
got a lot of credit card debt, or if you've got IRS debt or New York State debt. It's something to consider. You say the same thing, right, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
And then
Can help give people a clean slate.
if you use that home equity line of credit to repair or remedy or make better your current resident, you can also deduct the interest. Of course, if you use it for paying off credit card debt or for IRS debt, that's nothing that you can do. People who have student loan interest, and does that really weigh into the factor of their credit score?
Good question. Yeah, and student loans are, believe it or not, it's actually helped some of my younger clients that just getting out of college. That's the only thing appearing on their credit. So if they do well with even making a couple small payments at first, right when they get out, that will in fact give them a credit score.
But can it also hurt them? Because if these kids come out of college
Right.
and they're $150,000 in
Struggle
debt,
paying it. Yeah, struggle paying it. There's almost nothing worse on your credit. There's the two worst things are student loan lates, followed by mortgage lates. Those are the two worst things to do to your credit.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Because I think, the window has closed on forgiveness of student loan debt, or is closing. And so, there was the 10-year forgiveness of your student loans if you work for a non-for-profit, if it's listed as that type of agency on the federal student loan site, the FAFSA site. But I think those opportunities are closing because of the administration that we're currently
Right.
under. And so,
Right.
that's really important for people to know, is that the student loan debt, not paying it, that mark on your credit
Oh,
is
it could
really
destroy you. I've had it, unfortunately. I've seen it destroy people for getting qualified. So if you coming out of college, your student loans, if you can't afford to make the payments, just talk to them about putting them in deferment.
And that's what I always tell people, is that they're really good. They'll work with you.
Absolutely.
And just have to
Every
make
time.
that
Yeah.
phone call.
Right.
Yeah. And Chris, what if somebody has had their student loan debt forgiven? Is that something that's going to be added back to their income on their
No.
tax return?
no, not under current laws.
Right.
So
Yeah, which is really, because I've had people come in who've asked me that question. They're like, I turned around and, the $90,000 was gone. And so what a wonderful thing, right? For
oh
them.
God, yes, that would be remarkable.
Right.
Yeah. But get your questions in, 803-0930, 803-0930. I know somebody texted in that the real estate by UB is probably a gem. I drive on the 990 and I see all that new housing that they're building up, the student housing to the right as I'm driving in the direction of
From Lockport.
from
too.
Lockport.
Yeah, so much of
And
it.
oh my gosh, the UB is just such a hub, and there's so many opportunities. And I know Maria, who works for us, she was in Alden yesterday, I think, and she was looking for a place for a client for commercial spots and commercial. Do you guys do commercial lending?
We don't, no.
Okay.
Just strictly mortgage residential. Yep.
Okay, but there's even a shortfall on commercial
There
spaces.
is. Yeah, absolutely. There is.
Yep. But Chris Fabian from EG Tax, Tiffany Fabian from EG as well, Jesse from Cross State. We're going to take a short break, and we'll catch you on the other side. And we're back. EG Tax, Ask the Tax Lady. We're here to help you with whatever tax questions you may have. Special guest today, Jesse Myers from Cross State Funding. If you got mortgage questions, he's the man to go to. He's got the answers. So
There's a text. Do you want to read that, Chris?
Sure. On break, we did get a text in. It says, "Hi, I'm 23 and I recently got pre-approved as a first-time buyer with the local bank. They quoted me a very high rate and I feel in closing cost as well. Should I check around a few places perhaps? Thank you."
Good question. A lot of people will just go to local banks and just kind of roll with what they have just because that's where their checking savings account is. That's where they feel comfortable. But if you do feel as though you're being overquoted, or even just for a nice second opinion, give us a call, or really any broker locally. And we don't have to run your credit. We don't have to do anything like that, just to tell you how everything looks. If we can save you money, we're going to help you with that. But if we feel as though you're set up nicely with the current place you're at and you like who you're working with, we'll encourage you to stay there. So it's really a no harm, no foul kind of situation.
Well, got a question on that one as well. I know, home equity lines. People, oh, well, this is where I bank. I'll just get a home equity from them.
Right.
What's closing costs versus a refi versus a home equity?
Good question. HELOCs, that's the home equity line of credits. The reason why they're so popular is, one, people don't want to touch their good low interest rate currently, and two, there virtually is no closing cost.
Oh.
They're pretty much paying New York State mortgage taxes, new title fees on the house, very small percentage. We're talking 1% to 2% of how much you're taking out, and then they get the rest cash back, and as you guys know, tax free too.
Yeah. So, well, yeah.
Refinancing is nice as well if maybe you're in a higher rate and want to lower that rate and take the cash out. The only problem with refinancing there is closing cost. However, they're just rolled into the new loan.
Yeah, and I know I can testify. If you guys have, it's sort of like going to a healthcare broker. You guys have the ability to look at all the products, and you can shop from those products what is the best fit for the client.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of it. And then I also can tell you from my client's personal experience is that credit repair program that you guys have. And so you'll work with them. There might be buyers out there that thought this is like pie in the sky, never going to happen.
Yeah, they thought no way it could.
Yeah,
Right.
And there's really a fit, and so it's just beautiful to see it come together, because there's nothing like having pride in your house and knowing it's yours.
And getting there yourself too.
Yes.
Yeah. We just had a client a couple of weeks ago that was in the high 400s. Not even, unfortunately, anything that she did. It was her terrible ex-husband that racked up some credit card debt under her name. We helped work with her to settle those credit card debts. We got her up over 150 points in a matter of 6 weeks, and she's officially pre-approved, looking for a new house.
Well, that you brought up ex-husband. Was thinking about this one. How easy is it if you're going through a divorce to take the ex off of the current mortgage? Do you have to totally go through that process again?
Only
Or
one way to do it, refinancing. Wow. Yep, that's one of the terrible things we see are those people that have really low rates that aren't in a position needing to refinance, but they're going through a divorce, and let's say the person leaving the house, vacating the house, needs to get their own house. They can't have that existing mortgage on their debt, so it forces the person staying in the house to do a refinance.
Before we do the next text, what about those programs that I hear advertised on TV? We can help you eliminate all of your credit card debt. And I had a client who did this. And so what it is you don't pay your credit card debt for months and months and months. And then they approach the credit cards and they say, this is what we can offer. But first, they just don't pay. They don't pay. They don't pay. Are those bad for your credit?
It puts you in a hole. It digs you deeper temporarily. Of course, if you're looking at the long game of it, those people could help you settle those debts for cheaper to save you cash there. But if you're looking for a more immediate fix of, hey, listen, I just want to be done with this stuff. I want to go get a new house, restart kind of my life. Really, the only true way to do it is attack what you dig. What that hole you put yourself in. Go take care of that original credit card debt. I've even seen companies that my clients will call them themselves, and they take a lower amount sometimes just to eliminate the whole balance. Yep.
Yep. And Chris, what's the question there?
Hi, I'm 60 years old. I tried to do a qualified charitable distribution from my inherited IRA. I was told you have to be 70 and a half. Is that true? Yes, it is, unfortunately. because the qualified charitable distribution was to help people with RMDs, and I know this is an inherited IRA, and you're like, wait, but it is a RMD because I have to take it out over 10 years. But unfortunately, the rule is written you have to be 70 and a half.
Yeah.
Oddly specific, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that was about 4 years ago, that was the age when you had to start taking out of your IRAs and your 401ks. Now it's age 73, but luckily they didn't raise that on the QCD. They left that at the 70 and a half. So.
And Jesse, what about consumer credit counseling? Is that something that's a detriment to people's credit as well?
Yeah, similar thing. People kind of just being lax up front on their cards, letting them go away, and then the creditors just willing to take a settlement just so they can at least get some money and clear the debt.
Right.
But no matter what, if you take an approach like that, what's going to happen is, as the borrower, you're going to have those late marks on your credit pretty much forever. Late marks are going to be on there. They can be upwards 7 up to 11 years sometimes.
That's a long time.
Right.
That's a long time. And I know last week we had Dennis Kitchen on, and we talked a little bit about bankruptcies and things like that. And do you know how long bankruptcies usually stay on your credit?
Yeah, bankruptcies are same thing, long time. As far as approved,
7 years, I believe.
Yeah, as far as getting approved for bankruptcy, FHA, you only have to be 2 years out of it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Conventional can be upwards of 5, and VA is second in between, right around 3 years.
That makes me think of something. So, are you guys still running into the problem of people, because the inventory is low around here, of people having a hard time getting a mortgage because of the appraisal factor, because of what the people are buying the house for versus the appraisal?
Really good question, Tiff.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised, but not nearly as much as it was during COVID.
Okay.
Nothing similar to that.
That's good.
We probably in cross-state on average, we do between like 60 to 80 mortgage transactions a month, and only a couple would have appraisal issues. Compared to during COVID, we were seeing sometimes upwards of a dozen per month.
Jeez.
Wow.
That's really crazy.
Right. I think it's just Buffalo, Western New York community, and the surrounding areas. They are understanding that these houses are truly going up in appreciation.
Okay. And then FHA mortgages, the amount that you can get a mortgage for is different than a conventional.
It is. Yep. FHA has its caps. So that's the problem, too, with people coming out of bankruptcies, maybe only 2 years, and they're forced to go FHA.
Okay.
That puts you in a path there. You have to get a house pretty much under $500,000, $500K or less.
And
right
with
around
the
there.
inventory crunch,
Could be tough.
that
Yeah,
could be
especially
tough.
if you have a big family.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why sometimes a multi-family home, like a double, might be a good option for somebody who's getting an FHA. And it's a really good way to start breaking into the market, and
Huge. That's
Yeah,
what I
I
encourage
think
my first-time home buyers out of anything. If I can encourage people, it's get yourself a multifamily for your first house.
Could
Yeah.
somebody use that program you mentioned earlier in the show, the 4 initials?
Yep, DSCR. Yep.
To buy a multifamily and move into half?
No, you cannot.
Good question.
Good question, Chris. Multifamilies are the most popular housing that people buy with DSCR, but it all has to be investment, just tenant occupancy.
What about 4 years later? Do they look into that, or is it
Not necessarily.
Yeah,
not necessarily. A couple of years down the road, things can change. That's life extenuating circumstances. Yeah, things could adjust.
okay?
There's 2 text questions.
Right.
There's one down below that one. Chris.
I know it's a novel. It's about restricted stock options and how it's worked on tax returns. I'm going to tell this person, please give us a call at the office so we can go over your specific situation, because each person is different. I know I had this call during the week. So with RSUs, though, basically they do gross up your W-2, which means they have way overpriced, but that's your cost basis into the stock. So when you sell the stock, you only pay the capital gains on the difference between what was raised in your W-2 versus what was, but we got to look at everything in that
Yeah,
involved.
I know. I do a tax return for a person who's a vice president of something. He lives in a different state, and he sold a whole mess of stock options, but his was not grossed up in his W-2s, so he paid considerable amount on a Schedule D. So
you got hit big time.
He got
That's
hit big
tough.
time. So you got to really look at each individual. And I welcome you to call 632-7886 and ask for Chris. He's like a tax guru.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, he is.
I had a good teacher, right, Esther?
Was there another text there?
Yeah. Hi there. My question is about Social Security. Received my first check. I chose a 10% deduction. Since we are halfway into tax time, I guess the question is that going to be enough? I don't want to be hit at tax time.
Depends on all of your other income and if
you're
you're
married, yep.
Do the equation. Add up all your income. Do that.
So
equation.
you take all your income plus half your Social Security. If you're a single person and that figure is over $25,000, then your Social Security start going to be taxable. Married couple, you do the same thing, but it's $32,000. So again, just like the previous question with the RSUs, each person is unique on that. And I know with the big, beautiful bill.
I was just going to go there. Yeah.
The big thing during the election was he was going to make Social Security tax free. But now we got all the politicians out there getting their 2 cents in. So what they're looking to do is those people, I believe over 65, who are on Social Security are going to get an extra $4,000 in their standard deduction.
Wow.
So that will help a little, but it's not going to be the best benefit where they were going to make Social Security totally tax-free.
Right.
Yeah.
So
in that instance, with that extra standard deduction, then less of that Social Security would be taxable, and so hopefully that 10% would be enough. But literally, if you call the office, we'll do a what if mode, what if scenario, and see if that's enough withholdings. Because he's smart to plan. I can't tell you how many people start collecting Social Security and they come see us at tax time, and all year long they didn't do any withholdings and they owe a lot of money because of the Social Security, right, Chris?
Right. And speaking of planning, any 30-second tip, Jesse, you can give somebody before we have to close the show?
Sure. 30-second tips. Go to my first-time home buyers. Get your credit in line. Get a little bit of money saved up, and make sure you're at a full-time job. That's the biggest thing.
And ask mom and dad for help.
Ask mom and dad for some help. Nothing wrong with that.
No, you can gift somebody money, and
You can,
it's
yep.
a great opportunity.
Yep.
Great opportunity. Well, always great having you on. I recommend you so much, and you guys do an outstanding
appreciate
job.
you guys.
And
Yep.
and I love the philosophy about making sure that you guys get back to somebody within 24 to 48 hours.
Give your phone number again.
Nowadays, AI just drives you crazy. You can't talk to a real person.
Literally, yeah. And people love that, how communicative we are.
Yep.
Phone number, guys, 716-984-6968. Please text or call us at any time, and we'll take good care of you.
Okay. Jesse, thanks for coming on this wonderful Saturday. Chris Fabian and Tiffany Fabian from EG Tax. If you need help during the week, give us a call at 632-7886. Until next Saturday, we'll see you then.